Hello and welcome to English Literature with Susan, and thank you very much for listening to my videos. Today I want to talk about Lord Byron's poem She Walks in Beauty. It's a very short poem, but this is one of those poems which shows Lord Byron's talent in poetry, his representation of sense and emotion in poetry in his own way, of course. And this bunny says Happy Easter because I'm recording this video on Easter. So let us first go to the text of the poem, and then I will talk about imagery, because in this poem we can see a great instance of imagery. I will explain what is imagery and how it is defined in English literature after reading the poem. So She Walks in Beauty, first the text of the poem. The poem is dedicated and written actually for this woman, Anne Beatrix Wilmot, and it was the time, June 11, 1814, was the time that Lord Byron for the first time visited this lady. She was a relative. She was one of Byron's cousin's wife. And Byron, when she for the first time met this lady, he felt so impressed that the morning after that night, and they met in a party, and they tomorrow in the morning he wrote that poem about her, but he doesn't make a direct reference to this lady in the text of the poem. But we know by historical records and the information we have that the poem is about this woman. So she walks in beauty like the night of countless climes and starry skies. She walks in beauty in an elegant way, and because her dress was actually she wore a black or dark gown, a gown of a dark color, and on that gown there were some jewels and stones, no, just as ornaments. She's walking in beauty like the night of countless climes and starry skies. Everything is very beautiful, and it's like the night with the scar and with the stars because of the way she's attired, the dressing, and one point here is that Byron starts with the external beauty of this lady, first with her gown, and then he goes to her face, and then afterward in the poem, he goes to the beauty of the mind of this lady. So she walks in beauty like the night of countless climes and starry skies, and all that is best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. We see a perfection of the juxtaposition of the dark and bright colors, not only in her gown but also in her face, thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. And her aspect here means her face. Meet in her aspect and her eyes means that her face was white and her eyes were dark, and the combination of this whiteness and this darkness, this brightness and this darkness, makes a perfect kind of form or color. Thus mellowed, thus actually brightens to that tender light. It's a tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. Even the most sunny days do not have such a big combination, such a beautiful combination. Gaudy means showy, it's pretentious. So its beauty is somehow not perfect. It's too much of beauty or too much of bright color. But this does not actually the case for this lady. This lady is even more beautiful than a bright day, like when Shakespeare asks, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate." And then Shakespeare explains that the complexion of the sun is sometimes not there or sometimes too bright. So here Lord Byron is making such a meaning with these lines. And then he goes to the beauty of the combination of her face and her hair. One shade the more, one ray the less. No, a little bit darker, a little bit brighter, had half impaired the nameless grace, which shatter that graceful actually beauty. Here, nameless means nameless used in a positive way. It means that there is no word to explain this beauty, which waves in. And where is the grace? We have a run online and enjambment here. A grace which waves in every raven tress. And here we talk about the beauty of her hair. Raven means black, like the color of the raven, and the tresses are these waves in her hair, or softly lightens over her face. And you see these dark hair also mm, is standing in a contrast with her bright face, where thoughts. And then from this bright face, all of a sudden we move to her head and what is inside her head, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear your dwelling place. So this face, this head of hers, is the dwelling place of not only of this beautiful hair and eye and colors of the face, but also the dwelling place of great thoughts, of pure, innocent ideas. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm yet eloquent, the smile that went, the tints that glow. And now we know that the color of her face is a result of a beautiful mind she has. So the color in her cheeks, over her cheeks, or um, what we can see on that brow, so soft, so calm yet eloquent, the smiles that wane, the tints that go, the smiles that wane, the beauty of the face, and the tints that glow, the kind of color which comes to her face, but tell of days in goodness spent. So all these facial beauties tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below. Mind is here and everything is below it. So the things below it, the eye, the hair, the face, the cheek, are all in peace, and everything below it, everything in this world, a mind at peace with all below, a heart. And one thing which is below the mind is the heart, a heart whose love is innocent. So she has a beautiful mind, an innocent heart, and a perfect beauty. So in the poem suggests that the beauty, the outward beauty, is a result of the inward, actually, prettiness of the mind, of the heart, the innocence and the purity that dwells in them. So this was the text of the poem, and now we can move to the concept of imagery. What is imagery? Because this poem actually plays with different images, and because most of the times we think that when we talk about imagery, it is just a visualized kind of image. I prefer to provide a more detailed definition for the term. In this slide, we see some general conceptions about the term imagery, and then we will move on to more specific and particular terminology and definitions. So, or imagery is said to be mental pictures experienced by the reader of a poem, mental pictures in general, maybe, and or the totality of components which make up a poem. Some say no, it's not that just about mental pictures, it is about every element in the poem. So while this view is mostly about the audience and what is happening in the mind of the audience, this view focuses on the language and how these components, linguistic components, are juxtaposed in a poem, making up a poem itself. And a picture made out of words, this one combines the two other, a picture made out of words, a picture meant to picture, most probably is meant here. And a poem may itself be an image composed from a multiplicity of images. So a poem like this one, like She Walks in Beauty, which we just read, is composed of multiplicity of images. And these holistic image, which is actually made out of, composed out of different images, is how imagery is defined. And finally, Imagery is said to make poetry concrete as opposed to abstract. This is a very general definition. Poetry, if it was not for the images, for the examples the writers provide, the poets provide, would have become abstract. So, imagery helps the poem to be more tangible to the audience because via the images, the poet can clarify what he or she means. And now we can move to three definitions of imagery or three uses of the word imagery in English literature. Two of the definitions we discuss are more, let's say, involving, embedding some other ideas in them, but one of them is a particular usage of the term imagery. So, in the first usage of the term, the function of the term, image is considered collectively in a broad sense. So, images are not just visualized images, signifies all the objects and qualities of sense perception referred to in a work of literature. We can say that in the first usage of imagery, we deal with the five senses and the mental images we have or the memories we have, which are the result of the information gathered by the five senses and then categorized by the mind. So, we encounter in our daily lives, we encounter many incidents, and all those incidents, all those objects provide us with some mental images. Now, when you see a rose, you have a mental category of a rose. When you see a dog, you have a mental category of the dog, about its body, for example, about the sound of the barking of a dog. So these are the mental images. So imagery can be sound imagery, it can be the image which is visualized, it can be olfactory and things like that. It can be in form of literal description, allusion, simile, and metaphor. So, how would we just provide these images via different means: description, allusion, simile, metaphor? The term image, therefore, in this kind of usage, should not be taken a visual reproduction of the object denoted. It's more than that, that visualization. Some readers, why? Because some readers of the passage experience visual images and some do not. So we cannot just limit the definition in this sense among those who do not who do the explicitness and details of the picture very greatly. So even if you make a visual image, your visual image might be different, totally different from another person's, another reader's visual image. So visual images are not fixed, and because of this, the proponents of this usage of imagery think that we have to broaden the sense. So, if the term imagery is broadened, we would consider seven types of imagery. But one is visual, the other one auditory, tactile, which is related to touch, visual related to the eye, auditory related to the ear, tactile to the touch information gathered and just used by the mind. Thermal, which is related to heat and cold. So when the poet talks about the heat and the cold, the hotness and the coldness of something or someone, thermal imagery is used. Olfactory related to the sense of smelling, and gustatory related to the taste images we have, like bitterness, sweetness, and kinesthetic, which is related to the sensations of movement. For example, when Coleridge in his Kubla Khan says 5 miles meandering with amazing motion, not only this is an example of an illustration, but also it is an example of a kinesthetic kind of imagery because he's trying to give us a sense of the movement via these words, via the alliteration, as well as via the words which are used. And here's an example of this first type of imagery from In Memoriam of Tennyson. Unloved that beach will gather brown, and many a rose carnation fade with summer spice, the humming air. The humming air naturally works with the auditory imagery, or the summer spice deals with actually our gustatory imagery, how we taste food or other things we have an image of the spice, and and the roses, of course, the rose carnations fade with summer spice, the humming air, but there is, of course, an odor or something. So a kind of olfactory imagery is also involved here. But what about the second usage of imagery? This usage is a very particular type of the type of the usage of the term. The term imagery is used more narrowly. It signifies only specific descriptions of visible objects and scenes. So here we have that visualized image, especially if the description is vivid and particularized. So this vivid, particularized descriptions, which are also visualizing an object. For example, here the poet is talking about a painting. So, and he's saying how the painter has painted or portrayed the Tyrol Mountains in Austria. I will show you the painting in the next slide, but we have the images of the sea, for example, the peacock. A sea, the purple of the peacock's neck is paled to greenish azure as Durer changed the pine tree of the Tyrol to peacock blue and guinea gray. The idea is that the painter has changed the colors of the real landscape into something else. And then where this description, the peacock's neck, for example, and how, for example, a sea purple of the peacock's neck is pale to greenish azure. This is how the painting is depicting the scenery as Durer changed the pine tree of the Tyrol to peacock blue and guinea gray. Actually, when the poet has made a sea of blue or purple or greenish azure because he has changed the green, the actual green of the color of the trees in the Tyrol into blue and gray. Let us see the real painting here. This is the painting, and the kind of greenish azure is suggested here with a gray. So instead of using the real colors by adding up some blue, he suggests something different, defamiliarized image of that landscape. And in the third usage of the term, it is used very generally to relate to figurative language. In recent usage, imagery signifies figurative language in general. When you use figurative language, especially metaphors and similes, it is called imagery. So it is not necessary just to use words or just to use visualized words or visualizing something with the words. If you use a metaphor or simile, it can also be imagery as the essential component in poetry. So without these kind of techniques or metaphors or figurative language in general devices, the poem would not exist, could not exist. A major factor in poetic meaning, structure, and effect. So it gives a poem shape and its effect. So via the usage, extreme usage we can use of these devices, we can reach this goal. So this was my explanation of Byron's poem together with imagery. I hope you have enjoyed it, and thank you very much for listening.